Hi everyone, this is Ricki Spencer and welcome to another Quest by Community. And today we have a really wonderful place that we're going to be going, and that's to the sunny spaces of Queensland. And we're going to meet an incredible human being by the name of Michael Ogilvie, who has now been setting up an incredible organisation for the past couple of years, Queensland Regional Rainbow Pride. And what we're going to hear is an incredible journey of somebody who has lived within queer spaces in Australia for many years. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Ricky. Lovely introduction. Thank you. I'm originally a Melbourne boy, born and bred in Hawkesbury. Um, Came out when I was about 16, and then just over the years I've lived in Sydney, Brisbane, Cairns, and now Gladstone. When I came to Gladstone, there were three groups in a town that has a population of 40,000. So it seemed a little bit of an overload to me. So I decided to make it a regional group encompassing all of the regional groups in Queensland because they seem to have a lack of um, representation. I mean, anything more than 100 kilometres away from Brisbane, forget about it, unless, of course, you can. We don't get the funding. We don't get any of the good aspects of being LGBTIQASB in regional Queensland, and it's quite territorial. So the groups don't necessarily like to mix. So that was the idea of Queensland Rainbow Regional Pride.
In Melbourne, there's always, we have the Victorian Pride Centre, which is sort of like the key monumental space. So in Queensland, I know that you're very passionate about bringing communities together. What's it been like for you in your observations for the landscape of queer communities with that state of Queensland coming together?
It's a lot different to say Melbourne or Sydney, Brisbane itself. I mean, there are groups, but we will be the first to actually initiate a Pride House in regional Queensland, which will be in Townsville. It'll also be a centre for emergency accommodation. And we're about to become .inc. But most of all, I think it's important to be aware of what's going on, not just around Australia, but around the world. And that's what we attempt to do. Obviously, being members of Interpride, that makes it a lot easier for us. But if you look at most of the groups, it's more all fluff. They're talking about barbecues and having a nice day, and we're providing information that we think is important to the community.
That's really interesting, Michael, and it's very poignant when you mention about the Pride House. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what sort of led you to developing this very important space?
It was actually the generosity of one of our moderators in Townsville. Um, she had the idea of doing it. She did approach one or two other groups who didn't want to seem to give her the autonomy to do it her way, which is, I believe, the right way. Um, she's donating the house. She's organised the insurance. All we have to supply with is our name and our ABN. But without her generosity, it wouldn't have happened. And once that starts spreading through regional Queensland, the knowledge of this place, hopefully we'll develop more in other regional centres in Queensland. I mean, of course, we've got PFLAG and we've got other help groups, but most of them cost money, apart from obviously PFLAG and some of those groups. But not a lot of people have got money. And the other thing is too, if you live in, say, Emerald, and you're not out in your community, and there's an event 100 kilometres away that you feel more comfortable attending, that's why we approach people to actually put it on our page so that members in Emerald might find out about something in Rockhampton where they feel more comfortable being themselves because they're not known there.
And tell us, Michael, if For people who are listening right now and they're really keen to sort of become involved and to learn more about what's happening in the space that you've created, how can they become involved?
Funnily enough, we've got almost as many members in Melbourne as we do in Brisbane. We also have members in Tasmania. We've got about 50 members from overseas. And it's all through the fact that I don't just post in the rainbow groups. When I do out a welcome post, I actually put it in the general communities post. And, that can be a bit dangerous sometimes because I refuse to do it anonymously. But usually you'll find us, like I'll post Gladstone open for discussion or um, everything's okay in Rockhampton, just to spread it to people who might be afraid to come out, and but they're still reading about the local news, and that's how we actually get the most amount of people that become members. But also because I'm members of, with obviously Inter Pride, but also Christopher Street in Berlin, Pride Tokyo, Highland Prize in Great Britain. Um, we've picked up members from there. We've even got members in Japan, that in Thailand, because we joined the group in Brisbane, the Thai group that's I Love Brisbane, and some of their members, obviously, Thailand has a very large LGBTQI community because of the lack of law there, which is a good thing that it's not illegal. So we had quite a few Thai uh, people join, who then approached people in Thailand to join, and it then just spread around, basically around the world. Um, I think we've got members in over 19 different countries and members in nearly, I would say, every state in Australia, actually.
You mentioned that you are part of something called Interpride. Can you give us audience a little bit of a background as to what is Interpride and what your role is within Interpride?
I represent our group as a member of Interpride, um, which Interpride was started in the 80s by Marsha Levine, I think her surname is, um, as a sort of what we're doing now, but as a way of bringing people together. But it culminated in like World Pride Day, which we've just had in Sydney. In being a member, you get a vote on where the next World Pride will be, what rules and regulations need to be changed. You get to vote on who becomes board members, but then you also can, but not a lot of people do, um, become a member of the World Committee. Um, and then there's subcommittees. The one I belong to is Human Rights and Diversity, uh, where you have guest speakers talking about what's happening in, say, Uganda or uh, in Ukraine at the moment, and the struggles other people in other countries face, which shows you in some ways how good we have it, but in other ways, when you look at some other countries, it shows how we are still in some ways a fair way to go.
And Michael, I'm hearing of also through your passion in this space of social justice, and I spent some time going through the incredible Facebook page that you have for the group, that there really is a lot of interest in people really coming together in different regions and connecting. Have you found that during COVID that having that the online presence has brought a lot of people in different regions of Queensland together?
I was actually in Melbourne when COVID broke out, um, and it was the fact that COVID got to the point it did that we decided to move into an investment property in Gladstone. But while I was in Melbourne, I noticed that because everything was shut, there was nobody was really talking to each other, and there was no sort of the community kind of fell apart because we didn't have pubs and clubs to go to. And of course, when you were talking about regional areas in Queensland, I mean, I think we had in Australia the most highly unvaccinated population was regional Queensland. Um, so in setting up the group, it gave us the ability to promote, say, Townsville Pride, Cairns Pride. Rockhampton had a very successful Pride, but here in Gladstone we have Rainbow on the Reef. So that's why we don't hold a Pride in Gladstone, because they do such a fantastic job that um, I don't want to compete with them. Uh, plus, they've got a great board of directors because they're an LTD, not a .inc. With the group and them seeing the posts, people have made friends with people via DM as opposed to online, because we're not a pickup site. We don't allow it. It's
Mm.
within our. But people have made friends all over Queensland, and in some cases all over Australia. I mean, obviously that's how I met you. That's how I met Ash, um, and a few of the other members, Monique. Um, it's through word of mouth, DMs, and we make sure that we welcome warmly every member that joins the group, but only group members can see what's actually on the page.
One of the things of your space is that it's so inclusive in that you really are genuinely welcome everyone. And I know that having um, worked with you, is that one thing I've noticed is that you really take the time to support everybody. Is that something is part of your vision for this space?
I seldom use the anagram, or sorry, the acronym. Um, I prefer to use rainbow as a terminology, but with the acronym, I've always figured the plus meant more than just the rainbow community. It meant the supporters, it meant parents, it meant your friends. When I do put out a post to, let's say people call it a recruitment post, it's not, it's an awareness post. We get a lot of groups joining. So we've got Pride America, it's got, I think, 45,000 members, and their group is actually part of our group. So when we post, it goes onto their pages, which hits another, well, however many people look at the post. It could be 20,000, it could be 30,000. But that's the idea, that I'd eventually like to take this national, um,
Mm.
because, like, in Melbourne, it's a hop, skip, and jump to Geelong. But Geelong theoretically is regional and it's coastal, and it's not far to go to Dalesford. But here, I mean, from here, the next closest town is Rockhampton's hour and a half away. If you're going south, it's Bundaberg, next major place. It's 3 hours away. It's 5.5 hours to Brisbane. Um, but if we can get it eventually national, where people in Melbourne know what's going on in Queensland, and people in Darwin know what's going on in Western Australia, and you think about those direct routes, I think it'd be fantastic.
Michael, one of the things that when I've looked into the Facebook and looked at some of the localities and the memberships, that it appears that there is a real kind of interest in moving away just from Melbourne spaces or Sydney spaces, and there really is a desiring kind of focus to look at regional, and because that notion of connecting in diverse spaces is really what people are looking for. They kind of really want to see what that being LGBTIQ is not just about living in Melbourne or in Sydney, but one can live in the suburbs and in regional spaces. There seems to be a real connect with what you've created.
When I moved here, and as I said, I joined a group called Gladstone. I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, it had 118 members. And then it sort of faded away, and we founded Queensland Rainbow Regional Pride. It surprised me the amount of trans people that live in regional Queensland. It just blew my mind. I think they account for something like 24% of our membership. And the other thing that surprised me is the demographics of age. It starts low with the younger age, and once it hits 40, it starts to peak, gets up to 60, and it's at top, and then it starts to go down again. But it's that 60 point that always made me think, I wonder if this is people retiring, and they're moving to regional Queensland, but they don't have that ability to congregate at clubs or bars or pubs because we just don't have them. Cairns, from memory, had one and then it disappeared, and I think it's come back again. Rockhampton lost theirs. We don't have one in Gladstone. And that's why coffee catch-ups and barbecues are so prolific in regional Queensland, um, because we don't have the venues, and venues that are there, um, they'll do something like Pride because it's over a short amount of time, but like having, say, a gay night on a Wednesday night or a rainbow night on a Wednesday night, it's not going to work here, particularly not in Gladstone because we're a mining town, a coal development town, um, and a lot of the population are actually employed in that area. And there's not a club that's going to give you a Saturday night because they're kicking out their already loyal patrons, and then there aren't spaces to rent. If they're going to do something pride orientated, it's going to be in Brisbane or it's going to be in Townsville. It's got a much higher population. But places like Roma, and I'll use Emerald again as another example, Mount Larkham, Bundaberg. I mean, they tried last year to have a pride. This year they did something along the lines of pride. The community's so much smaller. And where is it? Can't remember how many people at Melbourne Fair Day this year, but I think at the Fair Day we had in Gladstone, I think they said they had about 14 or 1,500 people, that is huge for a regional town. It's massive. When you look at things like Mardi Gras and Brisbane Pride, for me to get to Brisbane Pride, the return airfares alone is over $1,000. And then you're looking at accommodation. It's just near on impossible. So this is where I'm trying to approach these people to start putting them online as well so we can all see what's going on.
You've hit the nail on the head there, Michael, because one of the, I think, wonderful things that you have created with this incredible organization is it is so inclusive for people with disabilities that people can come and meet other people. Um, so if you're geographically located in a regional space that's difficult with transport, and also, as you mentioned, safety, the fact that we can come online and you do have events. I know you've had wonderful events and you've had, because you are so well connected in the community and you've had so many entertainers, that it's a wonderful sort of way to make friendships. And I know myself that the friendships that you and the environment that you've created such safety that it allows for the developing of friendships that I guess other spaces and other states haven't really gone that road. And you've really started to develop a kind of community of families where we can share ideas, chats, events, and you really are bringing community empowerment and community capacity building through this new style where you are creating warmth. And I guess for me, I would love to know, and for everybody listening, where do you see the vision for Queensland Regional Rainbow Pride?
We'll take things slowly. We've got to get our .inc in first so we can start actually raising some money so we can actually do a little bit more. Um, but eventually, as I said, I'd like to move probably slowly into all of regional and coastal Australia, particularly places like Western Australia. They say they face the same problems we do. It's a large state, lots of little regional pockets that have rainbow communities that don't know about other rainbow communities that might be 100k away. And I think that in setting up, like we have in Queensland, this state group or regional coastal group, um, more people know about each other, and they know that like the maybe 5% rainbow population in Emerald. I love to use Emerald because I've heard some great stories from there. They suddenly realise they're not alone. And the whole idea is that knowing you're not alone is sometimes stronger than anything else that you could ever possibly feel. And if it's a matter of just DMing someone when you've got a problem or posting a thought that you might have, I think that's really important. Um, yeah, we post what's going on at a hotel in Criterion or something like that, but we also post a lot about mental health and how to get access to it, Headspace, Rosemary House. Um, so people that don't know how to find things have got somewhere they can fall back and say, "Oh well, that's what I need."
And I think, Michael, that what I'm hearing is that you have a really deep passion for bringing communities together. And if people are listening and they feel, yes, I really want to become involved and I would really love to be part of the journey, how can people become involved?
If you type in Queensland into Google, Queensland Regional Pride groups or Queensland Regional LGBTQI plus group, we're actually the first one to pop up. And if you hit the link, you'll find a blurb which is our about us, and there's the option to join. And as I say in the closing of every post I make when I do my regular post, if this is for you and you feel it's a right place for you, please join us.
T-shirt, is this part of the merchandise that you've set up to promote the organisation?
Yeah, look, they're available through our site. Unlike a lot of other groups, when we do become .inc, we won't be charging a membership fee, um, because you can't charge a membership fee unless you're actually giving something in return. So what I'd rather do is develop a card that, say, costs $1.50 to produce. And when you become a member, you pay $1.50, you get the card, but the card will get you discounts at certain places. Um, we don't want our members to donate or pay a fee to be part of what is naturally theirs anyway. Um, you know, uh, Nobody chooses to be who they are, but you shouldn't have to pay for it either.
That really shows everyone in the community that you really want to bring people together and that you are aware that we're living in an era where housing affordability is not easy for our community. Those of us who are trans and gender diverse are struggling to find work. So the fact that we can connect in a safe space, and as you said, for some of us getting the greying of the rainbow, that may want to consider living in a beautiful warm part of Australia, can connect with other people, make some really meaningful relationships, and most importantly, as you said, Michael, developing community connections. And that's just incredible. So, just before we finish up, Michael, can you tell us what is happening for Queensland Rainbow Regional Pride in the next few months?
In the next few months, we're going to hold when we do our Pride events, we do them online. So we were going to do it, I believe, in June, but there was so much on in June, it was impossible. We'll get some guest speakers on. I'd like to get Christine from uh, Friends of Trans Queensland on as a speaker. She's a good friend of mine, and I'm a supporter of their group. I'd like to get somebody on to talk about youth fairs, get experts in their field to come on, and then do a Zoom with, say, a capacity of 40 people. And then, of course, we'll do on World AIDS Day, we'll do what we've done every year, which is a candlelight vigil down at the um, beach, and we throw red ribbons into the waves as they get washed out to sea.
I just want to thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your journey in your life and really the importance of this emerging space you have created, where I think we can all be a part of, and you're inviting everyone in Australia to really connect. Thank you for spending a little bit of time on Quests by Community today, Michael.
Thanks, Ricki. Thanks for the opportunity.